Emma's come in. Right, so we've got Hyman's. Are we expecting anybody else?
No, not at this stage. We're going to have external people joining the meeting at their time slots. So Border to Coast will join later on, and speakers from BNY Mellon will join us later on too.
Right, okay. Quickly look through the list. Good, okay. Right, well, we'll better get started then. First of all, any apologies?
No apologies, Chair.
Good. Thank you very much. Members' disclosure of pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests. Any material that's in the documents at all? No, thank you. Go on to minutes of the previous meeting that are in the public domain. Do you want me to go through each page, or would probably the actual items, I think? There was nothing from the minutes of the previous board, pension board. Anything on the full plan? Risk monitoring? Responsible investment? The quarterly report? Performance report? I don't. Border to Coast update or Harbour Vest comments. The BCCP pooled manager presentation. Good. Okay, so no comments, so we can move on. Before we actually move into the body of the meeting, I just wanted to congratulate the finance team on two very successful, in my view, very successful remote meetings. One of which was we organised the Border to Coast executive committee meeting. It was the first time the Border to Coast executive meetings taken place where everybody from all the different pension funds managed to get on. So well done for sorting that one out. Because normally Border to Coast used to run it, but their systems don't allow them to allow outsiders to come in. And then secondly, the AGM, well done for organising it and getting it going. It was quite difficult with a few challenges, not least from Border to Coast, which actually came apparent on the day. But it's one of the problems of cybercrime, that people's firewalls are getting so rigid that it often prevents legitimate people trying to come in when they want them to. And that, I think, is the main problem. And a lot of companies have this problem. It's the settings they put on the firewall, but at the same time, it is inconvenient if they don't get it sorted. But well done to the team for setting it up and putting out all the points and everything. So good. Right, we move on to forward plan. Who is taking us through that?
I can introduce this, John.
Yes, great.
Okay, so this is an update on the forward plan. This is the rolling 12-month plan for future activity of the committee. If you recall, if you go back a few years, we didn't have this at all, and it's gradually become more sophisticated. So what we've got here is a schedule of all the standing items, which you're mostly familiar with, some specific things like the business plan and fund transfers, most of which have been on there for a little while. We've also got now a planned forward schedule of fund manager presentations, so starting with Threadneedle in March and going through other fund managers. And the last bit I'll just highlight briefly is at the bottom of the appendix, we've got the forward plan of policy reviews. So at the last committee, and we also have taken this to the local pension board, we've got the schedule of all of the policies the pension fund needs to keep up to date and use to ensure the governance is strong. And that bottom table in the appendix shows you how some of those policies will be coming through this committee. Some policies will go through the local pension board, some will also go through staff and pensions. But that's another kind of the gradual improvements we'll be making to the forward plan. That's all I've got to say by way of introduction.
Good, thanks very much. So funding strategy review, we're aiming to look at it in March, are we? That's the
Yes.
yeah, that's manager presentation. So that's when you're going to. Yeah, good. Okay, and June. Good. Anything to raise? Bill, you got any comments?
Only that it would be, I mean, I know it's not really part of the forward plan, but training would be, it would be useful to have a sort of a training plan as well as the forward plan, possibly separated into that's needed. Most of the training seems to involve the board as well as us. I think that's probably quite a good way of doing it.
Yeah, we can incorporate that into this document in future.
But what we haven't done is included those. There are some members of staff and pensions who aren't on the pension subcommittee, and it might be useful if they were offered the opportunity as well. Given that, looking at staff and pensions, there's now quite a lot more pensions. Don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yes,
Chris,
so what we can do is we're already in the habit of inviting the local pension board to investment subcommittee training and vice versa. So although we'll set up training to achieve the objectives of a particular body, anyone can go to any training, and we can broaden out the invite to staff and pensions.
Yeah.
It may be worth saying that staff and pensions are currently invited. So I think we did have Parminder join us for one of the.
We did.
Yes, it's a question though of I suppose prioritisation from councillors as to what they're able to attend. But the invites do go to staff and pensions in full.
Sorry.
Good, thank you. Neil, any comments?
Sorry, couldn't unmute myself. No, I was thinking along the same lines myself before Bill mentioned that. I think that it would be useful to have a plan that we can see going forward for training that includes staff and pensions and the other people mentioned. From a personal point of view, I'm still on a very steep learning curve, and to see what's coming would be useful.
Good, yeah. Wally, anything? Wallace?
Yeah, just one thing, Chairman. I wasn't the executive summary. Was there a written one, or is it just the appendix?
There's a short covering report, but really the appendix is the forward plan.
Ah, okay. I just wasn't clear whether there was an attachment on a written summary. That's all. Thank you.
No, it's down as Appendix 1, but it's Appendix A
I've got
in the
that.
appendix. Yeah, that's the only thing. And Andy, got any comments?
No, thank you, Chair. Just to reiterate and agree with what was just been said about training as a brand new member of this committee, clearly that's going to be very important to me. So I think that is something I'd very much appreciate seeing on the forward plan.
Yeah. Okay. Just something that's been sort of on the back of my mind. Although this is the investment subcommittee, so it's right that we have investment training. But there was a lot when we did the training with the pension committee. There was a lot of issue about what happened to the management side of it and who was responsible for actually ensuring the, if you like, proper running or proper oversight of that part of the work of the council and the pension fund. And depending on what happens, we might have to extend the training to include some, if you like, operational understanding, so that we can understand what goes on the other side of the pensions, not just the assets, but also the liability side. So just to sort of think about that. And do you, Chris, just as a red herring or off comment, really, what do you know what's happening about thinking about that? Because that came out of that training session.
I can't update on that specifically, but the one thing I can say is that if we will make training a standing kind of part of the forward plan update, including the dates and what we've got coming down the track in terms of subject matter, and we can also make sure that all of the training that we run whether it's serving the pension board interests or the investment subcommittee or staff and pensions. We can invite everyone from all of those forums to any training we run.
Good, thanks a lot. Any further comments? Otherwise, we will have noted this report.
Karen has her hand up.
Karen, yep.
Chair, it was really just to make the point under June 2021, you have the environmental, social and governance and climate risk item. I think that it's likely there will be a consultation coming out next year on the Task Force for Climate Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD it's called. And I think it would be helpful to just really note that. You don't necessarily need to add it to that agenda item, but to note that perhaps including a review of how your existing managers are aligned to the TCFD recommendations would be a sensible thing to do in advance of the consultation or alongside the consultation, depending on when it comes out.
Good, thank you for that. Noted. I think we'd say that, and that'll happen. Thank you for that, Karen. Peter, got any comments? Peter with us? No, fine. Okay. Okay, we'll move on then. Risk monitoring. Is that you again, Chris?
This is Victoria.
Oh, Victoria. Right, Victoria.
Yes, I've just got a message from Peter Jones saying that he's unable to join. Sorry, it was an email. I wasn't checking my emails. Would someone be so kind as to, Deb, would you mind resending Peter Jones the link to this meeting, please?
Yes, I'll sort that for you.
Thank you. Apologies for that. So, sorry. The risk monitoring summary. So this is quite similar to the one produced last quarter in that we have both a general risk monitoring update and also one that's specific to COVID-19. This is again looking at February 2020 for the general risk assessment as the anchoring point and March 2020 for the COVID-19 risk update. There have been some small changes. These have generally been in terms of the asset returns, where there's, again, just more unease about what the future outlook for global markets is going to be, and it's generally uncertain. There could be changes to the expected returns from various asset classes in their long-term projections, which may affect our expectations for the pension fund and what's realistic to see in our portfolio. The cash flow requirements are still looking quite balanced, and so that's why that has actually decreased. The active management aspect, again, is affected by COVID, and also we're seeing a rise in use of cybercrime and looking at controls around that. So in a similar way, we should check that our external managers have good controls, as well as the pension fund in general. So far, it seems that the pension fund has not been affected materially by any cybercrimes. Liabilities continue to have a high value due to the long-term gilt rates being low and the expectation that they may remain low. That's something that the scheme actuary is going to bring out in a paper later today. Data quality seems to be good, and we're pleased with how it went for 2019. So that's an area of strength. And also we've seen mitigation through the employer covenants, checking that and whether employers are likely to be able to pay their contributions going forwards. This is work that's ongoing, hence why the figures are the same, because the mitigating action is in progress rather than having taken place. Sorry, Bill, your hand is raised.
Yes, that's right. You're off.
On mute.
Just a brief. You said that cybercrime hadn't materially affected the fund. Does that mean there has been some
phishing emails? That we have received phishing emails. So these are ones where a random email will come through from an unknown source, and should one click on it, they may have access to additional information. And those have come through to members of the team, and luckily where they have been clicked on, our own IT team have picked it up quickly, and there have been no breaches as a result. So we haven't had any breaches. If that helps set the.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
As well as a training plan for committee members, local pension board, and staff and pensions committee, we're also going to use a training plan for officers across the whole pension fund, so that we can be comfortable that there are at least a couple of people in each area who feel comfortable that they have the knowledge and skills to be able to support the fund in meeting its overall objectives.
Good.
And that, thank you. And that comes again in governance standards, where we believe that looking at, say, policy reviews means that we're taking mitigating actions against not meeting governance standards. Does anyone have any questions on those aspects?
Does anybody want to comment on any of the particular colour blocks? I mean, basically everything's just deteriorated a bit, haven't they? You know, a few oranges have gone to reds and a few greens have gone to orange.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
There are a few reds that have gone to orange.
Yes, cash flow. Yeah.
And data quality.
Good. Yeah, Bill. Apart from your cybercrime, any other comment?
Sorry, you're on mute, Bill.
So it's not altogether surprising that it's looking slightly less happy. It's been through an extraordinary stress test, hasn't it? So
good point.
I think in the circumstances we should be relatively comfortable.
Yeah. Wallace, anything to say?
Not really, Chairman, because I think under the circumstances, what we see is what we would really expect.
Yeah, that's right. Neil?
Nothing really, except to say that we could be in a far worse position.
Well, yes, yeah.
And that officers have worked very hard to make sure that business has continued as near to normal as possible, and has reduced the effects of some of the things that have been thrown at us due to COVID. You know, we've got the external stuff that it's very difficult to mitigate, you know, in the investments, but as far as the staffing and the work streams going ahead are concerned, I think we're very lucky to have the staff that we've got that are making it work for us.
Good, thank you. Andy Jens, anything, Andy?
No, thank you, not at the moment, Chair.
Okay, so summary seems to be that I suggest we all echo Councillor Dervick's comments. Congratulations to the team for managing a very difficult situation. So well done.
Thank you, Warren. Thanks to the team.
Good. So now we have this confidential exempt reports, and we need to pass a following resolution. Members of the public will be excluded from the meeting for the items mentioned below on the grounds that their presence would involve the disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 of Schedule 12A of Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1972. Do I have a proposer?
I'll propose that.
Right. Thank you, Bill. Seconder, Neil? Yep.
Yes.
Great. Wallace, your hand was too slow. You're welcome. Right. Okay. So we can now move on to pink papers.